Netflix definitely read my mind when at the end of episode 10 they played, sing it with me, Man Child. Welcome back to the Miscellaneous channel where we do miscellaneous things. I'm Zeleny. I typically cover TV, pop culture, internet trends, and other miscellaneous things on this channel, so subscribe if that's your vibe. So today I wanted to talk about the final episodes of Love is Blind Season 9. This has been such a chaotic train wreck of a season. I don't always do 3 whole videos for a Love is Blind season, but this season just had so much going on and some pretty big developments happened in episodes 10 and 11. We had 2 whole breakups and almost a 3rd breakup. I thought it was going to be a full-on one, but they last second saved it. So let me get into the couples. Disclaimer, I don't know these people in real life. I'm discussing a very edited TV show and I don't condone sending hate to any contestant. This is just for fans of the show to have a place to discuss. But let's get into it. I want to start with Megan and Jordan, kind of our hero edit couple. This season is a little different from other seasons that we don't have a clear great hero couple to root for, and Megan and Jordan have kind of defaulted into that spot, especially as the episodes have gone on. In earlier episodes, I kind of felt like this relationship was one-sided because it seemed like Megan was always the one leaning on Jordan. She was always stressed or crying, and he was always the one making her feel better. But in these last 2 episodes, Megan actually stepped up and was the one leading the communication with Jordan, trying to make him feel better about things, trying to understand how she can do better. So this relationship now to me feels a lot more even as far as effort goes. A lot of their scenes have felt really positive, which makes me feel like they're more of a hero couple. They've had wholesome family scenes where their families approve of each other. She got to meet Luca, his son, off camera, and she said it went really well, so that seems to all be smooth. She literally says something catastrophic would have to happen for them to not work out. So the edit and everything we're seeing is telling me this couple is headed towards a yes at the altar, but they still have this one fundamental little issue that I don't know if it's gonna be make or break. It's interesting because this couple isn't like super toxic to each other the way all the other couples are in some way. Like the difference that Megan and Jordan have is not really the fault of each other, but it is pretty incompatible, and that is like their social class and their lifestyles that they're used to, which we've been talking about all season. And it was interesting in these episodes to see that come to a head very directly. And I love when reality TV does this and like holds up a mirror to society. It was interesting to watch their relationship from the lens of like, how does an upper class person interact with a working class person, and how do they figure out being partners, and can they move past this incompatible thing about them, or will they not? We still don't know the answer to that, but they did have a very direct and clear argument of sorts about their class differences. It was their biggest issue. It was the cliffhanger for episode 11. And again, it was not a toxic fight the way every single other couple has had. It was an argument where I could see both sides. They're just both informed by very different lifestyles that they lead. So basically, she's struggling with him not wanting to have a lot of conversation when they're at home sometimes. She will try to make conversation and he gives one-word answers. And so she directly tells him and communicates like, I don't like this. How can we have conversation that is more meaningful? I need more. She's very direct about it, and he feels attacked by her because he is super drained and exhausted from his job, his work, and co-parenting and just life. He just has communicated that he is tired to her, but he doesn't feel like she is believing him or understanding it, or she just says like, I'm tired too. And Megan is doing her best. She is putting in effort, trying to drag his reasons out of him of like why he's withdrawn and why he's so quiet and why he's upset. She wants to hear more about his job. She wants him to vent to her, but he is so drained. We don't hear much about his job because he doesn't want to talk about it, but it sounds like it's very people facing. It is long hours and very demanding. And he just wants to be able to like be silent when he's with Megan, or just sit and watch a movie and just have some recharge time. And so she brings up that she fell in love with him because of his conversation and how funny he is, and just like the way they talked in the pods. That's all they did. They had conversations. And he responds with, "This isn't the pods." And I just could see the invisible hand of capitalism all over this conversation, because my immediate thought there was when Jordan was in the pods and in the honeymoons, he was not working. So he had all the energy to be lighthearted and be joking and have deep, long conversations. His social battery was not going towards anything but his relationship. He was free, but now in the real world, the weight of, a job and paying the bills and co-parenting a child with a condition that takes extra attention like diabetes has all set in, and he's just in that grind of life where he doesn't have that kind of free time they had in the pods. That's the biggest luxury in this life, is having free time and flexibility to do the things you want to be doing and not the things you need to be doing to survive in this world. And Megan, on the other hand, has made her life to where she can vacation in expensive places, go to expensive restaurants, play rich people sports like tennis and golf. These are all activities that really help reduce the stress of living life and working and all of that, but they come at a premium cost and require the luxury of flexibility as well, which really changes after having kids. And that was another thing that came up in this conversation, that he gives her a big reality check that once they have kids, it's not as easy to be going to Aspen and LA and Italy and all these things she wants to do all the time, because the children become the priority and children need stability, and traveling with kids is a lot more difficult than traveling alone as an adult. So I feel like this conversation and these realizations dating Jordan are a reality check for Megan and are a real test if she really wants this family life, if she's willing to make compromises to her luxury lifestyle. Even when she spent some time with Luca, she realized his diabetes is very real. It requires attention, like in the middle of the night and things, and she said it's going to take some getting used to. So she had talked so much about wanting kids, but I don't know how deeply she had thought of how much it would change her life. And like Jordan mentions, he doesn't really want a nanny raising his kid, and maybe in her mind, she had thought, oh yeah, nanny, I can afford help. She thought she could maintain her lifestyle more. I don't really know, but she is trying her best to understand Jordan's perspective. I think naturally she's never gonna know exactly what it feels like, and I feel like Jordan might resent that. Like I said, I don't think either of them are being toxic at all. I think they're just coming from very different lifestyles, and they're doing their best to understand each other, but I don't know that they can really put themselves in the other's shoes, namely Megan, who is trying, but I don't know that she could ever feel that without experiencing actually being working class for a while. I obviously relate way more to his side because I assume I'm way closer to his tax bracket than hers. So from that lens, I would understand being resentful that she has a bigger boat, like he said. They're both tired, but it's different kinds of tired, and she at least can afford things that help her if she is tired or she is stressed from work, while he just doesn't have that amount of spare time or flexibility or money to afford these activities. So I also understand why she wouldn't just inherently know these things, and she's asking him all these questions to try to understand. And also, I'm not denying she works hard or that she's not tired from her job. It's really all relative. Like, my life probably looks luxurious to someone, but me from my job and my extra hobbies. I'm dead tired all the time trying to just keep up with life and expenses and trying to enjoy my life too, but saving for my future, just making my income just stretch as best as it can to accommodate everything. But it's hard, and I don't know, I really enjoyed watching this conversation just because life is tiring and the grind is tiring, and I just understood where he came from a lot. And I appreciate her trying to, like, it's a rare situation on Love is Blind where it's not like people yelling at each other or taking personal digs or attacks. It was just people communicating that come from different walks of life and just have very different priorities and stressors and lifestyles. And I'm very curious how they're going to end up, because they're really a mismatch in this way, but they are approaching it in a respectful manner to each other, in a healthy manner, and they have a lot of positive scenes and good moments that it feels like they're headed for a yes. They could make it work. They could overcome this, but it's really down to her and if she's willing to compromise her glamorous life. If it weren't for the edit, I would say it's a no, because the lifestyle things seem very different. I don't feel like that strongly about them, but relatively in this season, they're kind of the only ones that if they said yes, I wouldn't say like, no, that person's toxic or that's so bad for one of them, you know. For everyone else, I kind of feel like I'd be like, I don't think this is a good idea. For them, it's just like, are their incompatibilities too much for them or not? And that's their decision to make. Okay, so next is Allie and Anton. Oh my god. This couple is so weird. They're kind of like getting a hero edit sometimes, and then they're having these toxic moments. So we finally got this argument or conversation that they had teased for a while about him being mad that she's really messy around the house. And I thought this was going to be just a conversation about that or an argument about that. But in reality, it was a way for him to deflect when she's asking him about his drinking. And I don't feel comfortable diagnosing anybody with alcoholism, anything of the sort. I don't know this man. I don't know how much he drinks. But his deception around how much he is drinking is very concerning. Like, if he doesn't think it's a problem, then why is he hiding it? So she notices there's a 12-pack of beer missing in the fridge. There's a 12-pack of Coors Light beers also missing. She tells him that this is concerning to her, and he does not see it as a problem at all. At first, he tries to blame hanging out with Patrick for the 12-pack missing. He says they each had a couple, and he keeps saying, like, I don't know what happened to them. Then he backtracks the story because she's pressing him, like, so Patrick came in the apartment, and he's like, no, I brought down one drink for him and one for me to the lobby. He's just hoping that she cannot do math and can't figure out that she drank 2, Patrick drank 1. So that leaves how many that Anton disappeared. And then in their conversation, she also asks, like, do we still have the tequila in the fridge? And he has the audacity to pretend. He's like, I don't know, let me go check. And then he's like, nope, it's gone too. What could have happened? It's so deceptive and weird. Again, I'm not gonna say he has a problem. I don't know him. But, like, he did kind of say one of the most stereotypical lines that someone with an addiction says, which is, I could stop tomorrow. I could stop for a week. Trying to find, like, any kind of technicality, like, there's no pattern to it. That means there's no addiction. It's tough to watch. It kind of feels like denial. And whether he has a problem or not, any label for it, he's being deceptive about it, and that's enough to be, like, pretty concerning to her, because it's just scary to be openly deceptive when she has counted how many drinks she's had and is aware of what's in her fridge. It's like he got caught and he's just kind of like a deer in headlights. And then he also deflects. Like I said, he gets defensive, talking about, well, you have flaws too. You leave your laundry everywhere. But her response to that is very different. She says, yes, I do that. That's normal for me. Instead of being like, I don't know what happened. I don't know who put the laundry there, you know, which is what he's doing with the drinking. He also, like, deflects by saying, you had more drinks than me tonight, a night where they had a big party with everybody. And it's just weird with this couple because we have these scenes of them where they have an issue, but we don't get a resolution to it. It's hard for me to tell what is the plan here. And I admire Ali for telling him, like, I'm not going to tell you what to do. You're a grown person. But there's still, like, no closure with the conversation and no resolution. He doesn't step up and say, this is what I'm going to do. Or, I mean, he just believes it's not a problem. She believes it's a problem. And then that's it. We leave the scene and we don't see them anymore. And in the next scenes we see, we don't talk about that anymore. So the editing for this couple has been the most confusing this season, and I hate it. On the one hand, they have some really good scenes. They're bordering on a hero edit sometimes. They met each other's moms, and the moms really approved of them. They have this, like, romantic sleigh ride date where they just talk sappy stuff about how they're too similar. I do think in that conversation it was interesting. He said, oh, people give up too easily in relationships. And she said, sometimes you should give up and you hold on too long. And I feel like the edit is subtly setting up that she is going to say no at the altar. And he's going to say yes because he's all in. And he also keeps talking about, like, men these days, they just make all these promises and then don't deliver. I just feel like right now they've known each other so little time. They're still in the making promises phase, and we don't really know if he's going to deliver yet. He says he will, but he could be over-promising. We don't know. So I thought it was interesting. There's a deleted scene of Ali and Anton where they met Ali's friends. And the reason I saw this deleted scene was because Netflix did a sneak peek watch party for episode 10 the night before the episodes came out. And this was not anything special for me being a reviewer, recapper of the show, or YouTuber, anything like that. It was like a open to anybody who can make it and wants to come. You just put in your email and they send you a link to join the watch party. And so you get to watch the episode. There's like a chat going, and after they showed us the episode 10, they showed deleted scenes from the season. And there were deleted scenes for every couple, but there was particularly one scene for Ali and Anton that I was surprised they didn't put in the final edit, and I'm mad about it because it gave us more information about the tea that Melissa spilled about how Anton and his friend Joe were party boys. So they met Ali's friends and they were talking about how this was kind of like a disagreement they had, and we got a little more information about how Anton reacted to what Melissa had said, and he did deflect and downplay the partying. And he said it was a miscommunication with Melissa, that his partying had stopped years ago. And Ali's friends are actually like calling bullshit and saying, but hasn't the girlfriend only been around for 4 months? So why would she be talking about your party days if they were years ago? And he's just like, oh, she's just so confused about like our old stories, and he's just has no good answer for this. And I just had a feeling that when Ali came to him about what Melissa said, he was probably like, don't listen to her, she doesn't know what she's talking about. And it sounds like that's kind of what he did. We still don't get to see that conversation, but at least we saw, well, we didn't see it in the final edit, but in these deleted scenes, we saw, and Ali's friends were not into him. They were calling bullshit. They were like, this is a red flag. Like this whole story about him being a party boy, that it just feels like he's saying all the right things, but doesn't feel genuine. So I don't know why they wouldn't have shown this scene. And that's what makes me think, like, are they headed towards a yes because they took out like a negative scene of them? I don't know, but I just think that was an important, well, first of all, follow-up to the Ali finding out about the strip clubs and the party boy lifestyle. And it was also like Ali's friends not approving of Anton. And that's pretty rare to see friends and family not approve. These friends are pretty disapproving. So if those deleted scenes are somewhere, I will link them in the description. If the link's not there, that means they're not out yet. I assume they're going to put them out on like Netflix's like website for all the shows. They just might not be out just yet. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. It provided more context, more information. And I think Anton is so shady. I do think she is caught onto it. She plays her cards very close to her chest. I feel like we don't really get to know exactly what she's thinking or feeling with regards to a yes. I feel like she's gonna like get to the altar, but say no. I think she should say no. Like, yeah, she has her flaws of like she's very high maintenance, but I just think him being deceptive about the amount of alcohol he drank during their time together is a big red flag, and I just don't like him keeping secrets so early into their whole relationship. So next is Edmond and Kalybriah. And they're another mess. Oh my god. I really thought they were gonna break up these episodes. They came this close and I was like, yay, we did it. And then they made up right after. I was like, oh. So they had an interesting journey these episodes because we had left them in a big fight at the Pod Squad party. And many of you pointed out that you felt Edmond's comment was very passive aggressive with when Annie said Nick was perfect and him saying like, I wish I heard that. And I completely understood why KB would be mad about it. I just faulted her for like escalating it in the moment. But hearing the context of their whole day made this fight make a lot more sense and made her reaction make a lot more sense. So I loved getting kind of the full story. So they had a debrief about this fight the next day, and she told her side of like her whole day. She was running errands, she was getting outfits for them for the party, she had like an appointment, she hadn't eaten, and she called him asking him to like go pick up some accessories, and he said no, he doesn't have time. Then once she got home, she was already, hungry, irritated, all these things, and he kind of just ignored that he had said no and hadn't helped her. And then he got his feelings hurt because she was upset at him for just not helping her out that day. But then in the car ride, they put it aside. They put aside the fight. And they were good by the time they were arriving to the party. But then when KB heard Edmond make this comment, she was very quickly triggered, understandably so. And it wasn't even the perfect comment that was the worst thing for her. It was the one where he said, you haven't even said anything nice to me today. She's trying to say like, well, of course I didn't say anything nice to you today because you treated me bad and made me upset before this party, like during the day. She was just mad that on camera he was leaving out all that context, and it just makes her look bad as like someone that doesn't say anything nice to him. This made everything make a lot more sense, and he apologizes for the comment and the fight. He doesn't apologize for upsetting her earlier in the day, so she apologizes for escalating it at the party too. She always ends up like apologizing to him too when they have it out in a fight, even though she is very like critical of everything he did wrong, and like she's great at clocking every little thing he does wrong. And this is their cycle constantly the whole time we've seen them. So they basically have a repeat of this argument when they go on a date snowmobiling in the mountains. It's a gorgeous date. She confronts him that he is different on camera versus off camera. Off camera, he's like upsetting her or ignoring her and dismissive of her, and then when the cameras come up, he's like happy-go-lucky, he like nothing happened, and she hates that. She wants him to like address things head on. And I really thought this was it. I was like, okay, this is the breakup conversation. We've already had 2 breakups of very toxic couples, like they're next, makes sense. She was saying she can't force him to grow up, which it feels like she keeps trying to do in these arguments. And she like cussed him out in this fight, called him a bitch, because he felt he did nothing wrong. And so he wasn't getting it, and she got really, really mad, which was unfortunate. It was sad to see her get to that place, and she even reflects on that later and it's like, I'm sorry, that's not me, So I really thought this was it. I was like, she laid it all out, clocked him, we're done. And then the next scene we see, he's bringing flowers and apologizing, and he's saying all the right things that she wanted, like being very direct, saying, I'm sorry I was dismissive, I'm sorry I minimized your emotions, sorry I denied I did anything wrong. So he says all the right things, and she comes back. She was ready to walk away. She said she was this close to throwing the ring off the mountain, and I was like, that would have made some good TV. I selfishly would have loved that, but she forgives him, and it's like, we've overcome. And she apologizes too for cussing him out and that she doesn't want to be like that. This is their constant cycle and dynamic, and it's just not healthy. It doesn't matter how many times he rubs her feet or tries to lick them. He is immature and childish and whiny, And that leads her to get into this mothery role where she's like condescending and lecturing him about everything. And she's trying to like change him and make him into this man. But she has like 2 weeks to do it. It's not going to happen. I also feel like she might be one of these people that believes that a relationship has to be hard. And marriage is so hard. Every day you fight for your love and all this stuff. And I feel like that's kind of a popular belief, but it is not healthy. It's toxic. A healthy, good for you relationship is not a fight, a battle every day. It's not like super challenging. I feel like when they're good, she's always talking about like, we've overcome every adversity. We both haven't given up. We both haven't walked away. And it's like, you should be asking yourself, why haven't you walked away? Because you've gotten every sign that you should, and that this dynamic is just not a healthy way to live your life forever. But no, I guess some people are just into like the overcoming and the challenges and think that makes for like a great solid relationship when it's just toxic and bad. I feel like she's gonna say no at the end. Like they have had the same fight too many times. Okay, next couple, one of our couples that did not make it. It is Madison and Average Joe. Average Joe really pissing me off every single chance he gets this season. So he got the classic groom cold feet. There was a bit of foreshadowing because he met her family and her mom was saying like, you're not gonna blindside her, right? We got more information about Joe's previous engagement, and he kind of did the same thing back then. He was in a 5-year relationship and they were fully engaged and had a date and everything, but when he was getting ready to mail the invitations, it just all became too real and he backed out. Sound familiar? It's what we saw when he was trying on suits. It became too real and he ran away. Yeah, that was awkward. Her mom specifically asked him, are you gonna last minute ditch again? Hopefully not, and he did. Joe and Madison also had some interesting deleted scenes in that deleted scene compilation I watched. One was them in the pods and how he talked about his previous engagement, and he mentions like he wasn't excited to be married ultimately, and that's why he backed out of the engagement. And I just feel like he's never once been excited to be married. Why is he on this show? Why did he sign up for this? Beats me. And then there was another deleted scene where they talk about the reveal and how awkward Joe was and that she felt that maybe he wasn't into her. He does deny it, but we know the tea that he likely was never into her, despite always having sex with her, which I think is very strange. Also in the deleted scene, he talked about how he gets Botox. So that's kind of an insignificant detail, but perhaps that's why he always has a blank template of a face. Like, that could be an explanation. I don't know. So at the suit try-ons, Joe runs away after giving some solid proof that he does not know how to tie a tie. Which, like, whatever. You know, some people didn't grow up with dads around or didn't learn how to tie a tie, but he was trying to play it off like he did and kept, like, pretending like he was about to and not doing it. And then the lady was kindly offering, I'll do it for you. It's not a big deal. Like, if he had just said, yeah, do it for me from the beginning, I wouldn't have assumed, oh, he doesn't know how to tie it. Like, it was just bizarre. But then he doesn't tie it. He gets mad at his friends asking him questions like, are you ready? Is it feeling real? He's like, shut the fuck up, dude. He really turns and gets upset. He can't even finish his confessional. And so he walks out and says it's fucking stupid. And he's hiding in his truck like the little man-child that he is. And so yeah, the next scene we see of them, Madison tells us that Joe broke up with her, that he just said she wasn't his person, and that was that. He told her if they go to the altar, he's gonna say no. And she is just distraught. And the worst part is that Joe can't even muster up a reason. He doesn't even have the courtesy to say, it's not you, it's me. Like, that's the easiest line in the playbook. Everyone knows that line. He didn't even say that. He just stared at her blankly while she cried and asked him why. She even starts asking, like, is there somebody else? This is weird. Like, did you see someone at the pod party that I'm not realizing? And he's just like, no, I don't know. I'm just average Joe. That's my excellent Joe impression, if I do say so myself. She's heartbroken to the point where she's asking, like, do you even care? Because he doesn't look like he cares. He doesn't reach out to comfort her. He doesn't offer any words of like, but you're a great person, or we had a good time. We had good times. Like, nothing. It's just absolutely nothing. And in the confessional, he's literally just like, I'm just relieved. Yay. What show am I on again? Meanwhile, Madison is over here dry heaving, just struggling. And she even musters up the kindness to tell him how grateful she is for going on this journey with him, even though she's upset now. She appreciates him being part of her story. The girl is a bigger person than I would ever be in this situation. And she just seems like a really sensitive person. Like, I know she had her moments of being needy, but I do feel like it was a response to him giving absolutely nothing. And I wonder how Madison would act in a more normal relationship where both parties are interested in each other. Man, this was a couple. I mean, I'm surprised it lasted this long. Joe is a coward for not just calling it early on, and good riddance on her part. Truly. Finally, our last couple, Nick and Annie, and they were our first couple to call it quits. I mean, is it really a Love is Blind season if a couple doesn't break up right before wedding dress try-ons, right before suit try-ons? Fun fact, in season 7, it was also a Nick who broke up with Hannah right before the wedding dresses. Or Hannah broke up with Nick. Whatever, they had their breakup. If I had a nickel, I would have 2 nickels, whatever the saying goes. It's weird that it happened twice. So Nick and Annie, oh my god, we didn't see much of them these episodes because they broke up pretty early on, but after the pod party, she basically has a do-over repeat of their fight in the honeymoons, where she was just accusing him of not loving her as much as her. She keeps just repeating, I love you, I love you. She is clearly wasted, zooted, high on something yet again, and is just talking in circles. Their 2 fights of this kind were so insufferable and long to sit through because Nick seems perfectly sober and with it, and he's just like responding to her, and she's not listening. She is just repeating the same 3 things over and over. You don't love me as much as I love you. Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure you want to do this? I love you so much. You're perfect for me. I can never think of anyone better. Like, gushing over him, but mad at him. It's so weird and annoying. So the next day, Nick just breaks up with her, and it's like, that fight was the breaking point. I'm over this. You put words in my mouth. I'm not happy. Can't see myself saying yes at the altar. Nick feels very phony and rehearsed, but at least he is like cutting to the chase in a timely manner compared to some of these other people. And Annie is just so desperate. Like, girl, get the fuck up and let it go. She does not let Nick break up with her. She keeps begging and begging, please try, please, please. It's just so embarrassing. Like, girl, get up. She's talking in circles again. She's an expert at talking in circles. And she's saying, like, I molded my whole life around you. It's like been 2 weeks. Like, shut the fuck up. Like, I understand having like a bad reaction to a breakup, but I don't know. You have not wasted that much time here. You're the one that fumbled it by picking all these drunk fights all the time with him, and he said the first time he really didn't like that, so the second time was the last straw, and it is what it is. She does make an accusation asking him, like, was this your plan all along? I think that's interesting. That's up for debate. I don't know, because he does give very, like, over-the-top, kind of phony vibes. But she was also saying a lot of shit and just whatever. I think it's more that all of the other contestants kept mentioning how Nick felt fake. So I think Allie mentioned that when she found out they broke up. But I do think Annie gave him enough reasons to leave. And I don't know, like, had she not been picking fights with him and not doing stuff he really didn't like, I don't know that he would have broken up with her so soon. Nick is a weird one because he just gives very weird vibes. Everyone hates him. But in the real world episodes, he's actually, like, handled things as well as one could, as rehearsed as the conversation might feel. At least he's like, I want to break up, and I'm not happy, and I'm not going to say yes at the altar. That's more than average Joe could do. KB is over here in denial about the state of her relationship. Allie and Anton's edit cannot make up its mind. I was glad to see them break up. I always love when I see, this sounds so sadistic, but I always love seeing a Love is Blind couple break up when they've been toxic at any point to each other. That just feels right. And I like when they call it early. Like, I don't need to wait and go through this farce of a wedding. I'm fine with seeing breakups. They're dramatic. They are needed a lot of the time for these couples. Glad for Nick and Annie. Glad for Madison and Joe. Hopefully next week I can say I'm glad for Edmond and KB. The other two, I don't really know. And the only couple that I wouldn't be like worried for anyone in the relationship would be Megan and Jordan. So those are our couples and where they're at right before the weddings. I will be live streaming Wednesday night, October 22nd, the day the finale drops, to talk about the weddings, the final outcomes, and just a little bit about the season as a whole. We can have a little finale party right here on this channel. And then the following week, October 29th, I will also do a live stream talking about the reunion. Let me know your final predictions for the altar and final thoughts on the season. I would love to hear about it in the comments below. Thanks so much for coming on this journey for season 9. I really appreciate it, especially if you have been on the journey for all of the parts. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed. I put out new videos whenever I feel like it about TV, pop culture, internet trends, and other miscellaneous things. And you can follow me at Miscellaneous to keep up with me, or just turn on the bell notification here on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!